Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. On today's video, I'm going to show you how to use Samsung's data migration software. Now I did this video about 2 or 3 years ago, and I had a lot of questions asked on the video. So I'm just going to update this and try to answer a lot of those questions by doing some of the things that I left out in that last video. An SSD here from Samsung, it's just an 850 EVO. It's just a little 250 gig drive. Now I'm going to use this on one of my parents' old computers. This is just something that they had laying around. They have a hard drive, a mechanical hard drive. And what I'm going to try to do is, it's like a two-part video. So this is going to be, this particular video I'm going to show you the migration part and how to take all of the data, put it on the SSD. Hang tight, we're going to get started. This first part again, like I said, will be the data migration with Samsung. If you're trying to upgrade your hard drive in your laptop and you have an SSD, then you would want to connect it this way. So you can get this adapter off Amazon. I'll drop the link in the description below, but you'll want to get something like this. Just has a USB port on one side and then both SATA power and data on the other end. So you would connect that to the SSD and then plug it into your USB port, which is right here. And then you would run the software. I'm just going to show you all exactly how you should set it up. I do have the Western Digital right there, the blue hard drive. That has the current operating system on it, the Windows 10. And it's connected through, it's got the SATA cable and the SATA power. All I did was connect the Samsung SSD again to another SATA port, SATA cable, SATA power. You can't really see it because of the video card, but both SATA cables going to the motherboard. I'll take you over to the screen. So it does show that this machine is i3 2120, 3.3 gigahertz, 4 gigs of RAM. If I get rid of this window over here real quick for you. So you can see I do have the C drive and I've got the local for that's the Samsung SSD. I went ahead and installed the software, so it's called data migration. All you gotta do is search it, Google search it, Samsung data migration. Get that installed. I'm gonna go ahead and run it, and then you will see that the C drive will pop up. It'll show the C drive with all of the data on it, and then it's gonna show the 250 gig Samsung SSD. So we can go ahead and get the data migration process started. So I'm gonna hit start once you actually run the software. So it is going to notice the source disk, which is going to be the Western Digital 320 gig SSD. So 298 gig total. That's the first, and then it actually shows the Samsung SSD, so it's the 860 EVO. So that shows you both of them. Now, some of the questions that were asked in the comments before was, can you select certain things to migrate? Can you only migrate the OS? Stuff like that. This is a total disk migration. All you gotta do is click start, and then it's gonna pop up a window and it says warning. Basically, when the cloning starts, everything on the target disk will be deleted, so you will not be able to recover it, so just make sure that it is completely empty. Would you like to go ahead and start cloning? So you guys just seen the disk was completely empty. I'm ready to start cloning, and I'm just gonna let this process go. When this first started cloning, it actually was sitting there for like 2.5 to 3 minutes, and no data had been transferred, and it was showing 0 megabytes per second. And then all of a sudden, right at that, like I said, it was somewhere between 2.5 to 3 minutes, it just started. After about 55 minutes, the process is finally complete. It says that the data on the source disk has been cloned to the Samsung SSD, which is awesome. That's exactly what we wanted. Now the next thing that we have to do is go into the computer itself and swap the hard drives. Now actually physically doing that with the SATA cables, or we can go into the BIOS. I'm gonna go ahead and show you both ways right now. So the simplest way to do this would probably be switching the SATA cables so that you can boot from this drive. As of right now, Windows is booting from here. In the BIOS, it's set to boot from the Western Digital hard drive. So if we want to switch this so that we can boot here, we just need to swap these SATA cables. We need to disconnect this one and then plug it into here and take this cable and plug it into this one. But you don't want to do any of that before you turn off the machine. So the process is pretty simple. I'm just going to disconnect this one, disconnect this one. Now what a lot of people will do is they will actually use the secondary drive, the one that they've migrated the data from, as a storage drive. I'm going to do that too, but I'm just going to show you all the process of switching these cables around and that it does boot from the SSD. I actually do have in mind to replace The Western Digital drive, since it's a blue drive, it's a little bit slower with a Barracuda, and it's a little bit more space, so I'll do that in a little bit. But for now, we just swap these cables and we're gonna boot it up and see that it booted from the SSD. So the Western Digital drive is now the storage drive and the SSD is now the C drive. So we've booted from the SSD and now I'm gonna show you how to switch it in the BIOS. So if you would prefer to change your boot device through the BIOS instead of just swapping the cables, then for the Dell computer, you're going to tap F12 when the computer is booting up. If you have a computer that you built on your own, like say if you got an Asus motherboard, a Gigabyte motherboard or whatever, you're probably going to have to hit the delete key. So with this machine, like I said, it being a Dell, I've tapped F12, I've got to this menu here. I'm going to go down to the BIOS setup and hit enter. And then it gives me the window here where I can change where I want to boot from. So right down here, the boot sequence is here, and then if you see here, it'll let you decide which hard drive you want to boot from. And now I've got the Samsung SSD listed first with the Western Digital second. So there's where you would go in and make the switch to pick the SSD if it hasn't already been set to that. But where we already changed the cables earlier, then the BIOS detected that and sees that it should boot from the SSD first. Okay guys, so that wraps up this video on how to use Samsung's data migration software. Hopefully you were able to follow this and get your data migrated over to your new Samsung SSD. So if you like this video, go ahead and check out the rest of my channel. If there's other content there that you like or enjoy, go ahead, subscribe and hit that notification bell. I'll see you in the next video. I appreciate y'all hanging out with me. See you next time.